think the clock started right before all that happened. Now we have a timing situation. We have got to go.
From the chute to the glory, every ride tells a story. Let's see who's riding theirs tonight. Welcome to Dirt and Glory Gambler Days. Let's recap this 3-day event. I will talk about the matchups, key rides, wrecks, and more. All right, let's get into it. Day 1, Friday. Game 1 was the Oklahoma Wildcatters versus the Arizona Ridge Riders. Josh Frost got the first ride of the game when he conquered Big Shasta for 88.5 points. The Ridge Riders matched up Luciana DeCastro with I'm a Hostage. The clock stopped early for a touch, which Arizona, of course, challenged. They won the challenge, and Luciano was fighting hard to make the 8, paid off with a score of 81 points. Oklahoma's Court McFadden rode Blonde Bomber for 8 seconds to put the pressure on Arizona and force a qualified ride from them they wanted to win. However, Arizona challenged for time because they thought it seemed a little bit close, but they lost the challenge and Court was awarded 86 points. Oklahoma narrowly beat out Arizona and delivered them their second straight loss. Game 2, the Missouri Thunder versus the New York Mavericks. Here's a quick news alert for the New York Mavericks. Bob Mitchell's out and not here this weekend, and Mason Taylor and Marco Rizzo are also not in the lineup. However, they are present just in case a re-ride is presented and the bowl fits either of them the best. All right, after a few buck-offs in a row, Mauricio Medea showed the Bulls who were in charge when he rode Buck for 87.5 points. Jet Harkins had a great ride aboard Kevin, which resulted in a score of 89.25 points for the Mavericks. The Thunder sent out Andrew Alvidrez against Snappy, and he made the 8 for a score of 84.25 points. There was a rewrite option due to bull performance. However, the Thunder kept the score and put the pressure on New York. Missouri won this game by a ride and are looking to keep this momentum going for the rest of the weekend. Game 3, the Carolina Cowboys versus the Kansas City Outlaws. This game started with some drama when Cooper Davis was on the shoot clock and the gate opened with 2 seconds left. He bucked off a short fire before the whistle, and when Cooper Davis told his coach that he didn't nod, they went ahead and challenged it. However, they lost the challenge and they kept the no score. Heitor Santos Freitas got the only score of the game for Kansas City when he rode Peanut for 88.25 points. The ever-reliable Clay Guyton faced Miller time and got a score of 86.5 points. There was a rewrite option due to bull performance. However, Carolina declined and kept the low score. Carolina was the winner of this matchup. Game 4, the Texas Rattlers versus the Nashville Stampede. Brady Fielder matched up with a bull he is very familiar with, and he made the 8 aboard Woody for 89.75 points. The Rattlers sent out their closer, Ezekiel Mitchell, to put the pressure on Nashville, and he did just that. He rode Rip for 85.5 points, which meant that Nashville needed at least 89.25 points to win. Cody Jesus was matched up with Jam Jam, and everything seemed to be going well until the clock stopped at 5.54 seconds. Nashville couldn't challenge because they were out of challengers, and Texas's coach Cody Lambert was going to challenge for them because he said, "I don't want to win if we didn't really win." However, too much time had passed and Texas was unable to challenge for Nashville. I just wanted to call that out because that shows the sportsmanship and honor that coach Cody Lambert has. Texas clinched this game, and they're ready for their next one. Game 5, the Austin Gamblers versus the Florida Freedom. Joao Ricardo Vieira started off this game with a rematch against Bucktown. He's new 2 for 1 against this bull with a score of 81.75 points. There was a rewrite option, however, Florida declined. Austin matched up Dalton Castle with Buffalo Heifer, which turned out to be a great choice because Dalton made the 8 and scored 89.25 points. Florida sent out their closer John Crimber against Mississippi Mercury, who he rode for 88.5 points. This put Austin in a must-ride situation in order for them to win. Florida beat Austin on their home dirt. Day 2, Saturday. Game 1 was the Florida Freedom versus the Nashville Stampede. Tiago Salgado started off the game for Florida against Soul Train. The clock stopped a little bit early, but after review, it was deemed a qualified ride, and he got a score of 88.25 points. Nashville's Alan De Sosa was ready to take on Black Tie when he went the distance and scored 85.5 points. Florida faced another situation where the clock stopped early. This time, it stopped at 7.97 seconds, with John Crimber aboard Triple Odd. Again, this was an automatic review, which resulted in a qualified ride and a score of 85.5 points. Florida got their second win of the weekend when they took down the Stampede. Game 2, the Arizona Ridge Riders versus the Kansas City Outlaws. The Ridge Riders' Luciana DeCastro was matched up against Damaged Goods, who towards the end of his ride just stopped and stood still. And because of that, they were given a rewrite option. To add more drama to the mix, Kansas City challenged for a slap. They did lose that challenge. Luciana was awarded 48.25 points. Arizona decided to wipe away that score and put Jacoa Hale against the re-ride bull Skippy. Keyshawn Whitehorse got put on the clock, and then at 27 seconds, Interstate Daydream started bucking in the chutes, which caused Keyshawn Whitehorse to injure his knee. He was pulled out of the chutes and ended up being disqualified. Do you think that this is a rule the PBR needs to change? Let me know your thoughts below. Neither team scored in this game, which per the rules resulted in a loss for both teams. Game 3, the Carolina Cowboys versus the Missouri Thunder. Let's do a quick news alert. Missouri traded Trace Red back to Texas, who was actually a part of the Rattlers last year, for Macaulay Leather. Macaulay is now reunited with his brother. They're both Australians who were drafted this year. All right, now for this matchup. Jess Lockwood asked his coach if he could have a rematch against Chico, who had bucked him off before. Coach Davis agreed to that matchup, and Jess Lockwood managed to conquer Chico for 89.25 points. The newest member of the Thunder, Macaulay Leather, made a huge correction and gritted it out, making the 8 aboard Washita Red. Carolina challenged for a slap, and he got an 83.25 points for his first ride of his PBR career. Dalen Swearigan closed out the game for Carolina by riding whip for 86 points. Carolina managed to get another win under their belt for this weekend. Game 4, the Oklahoma Wildcatters versus the New York Mavericks. Oklahoma's Winston DeSilva got the first points of the game when he rode Henry for 85.5 points. Court McFadden rode top dollar for 88 points and clinched the game for the Wildcatters. Oklahoma shut New York out and got the win. Game 5, the battle for the Texas Cup. Austin Gamblers versus the Texas Rattlers. Austin's Denner Barbosa was the 6th man out for this game, and he got the one and only qualified ride of the game aboard Prince Charming for 86.25 points. The Rattlers were shut out for the first time this season, and Austin won on their home dirt. Day 3, Sunday. Game 1 was the Oklahoma Wildcatters versus the Kansas City Outlaws. Oklahoma's closer, Court McFadden, rode Blonde Bomber for 88.5 points. However, Kansas City challenged for time and won, making the buck-off time 7.76 seconds. This wiped that score off the board for Oklahoma and put the game in Kansas City's hands. Heitor Santos Freitas was aboard short fire when the clock stopped just shortly after 1 second. Kansas City challenged and won due to a clock malfunction. Heitor was awarded 85 points and had a walk-off win. Kansas City won this game and got their first win of the weekend. Game 2, the New York Mavericks versus the Nashville Stampede. New York's newly signed Joao Lucas rode margin of error for 84.5 points. Nashville answered back with Anderson de Oliveira putting up 86.75 points against Torch, which put Nashville ahead. Cody Jesus was paired against Hoka Hay, and Cody rode that bull with no problem, resulting in a score of 87.25 points. That ride gave Cody another walk-off ride. Nashville narrowly won this game and got their second win of the weekend. Game 3, the Arizona Ridge Riders versus the Missouri Thunder. Everton Atonde Silva had the first out of the game, and he managed to conquer a bull who tends to not be a rider favorite. He rode Velvet Revolver for 87 points. Missouri's Jet Harkins continues to show just how valuable of a teammate he is when he rode Smoked Stack for 86 points. Arizona just barely scraped by to get the win on Sunday. Game 4, the Texas Rattlers versus the Florida Freedom. Brady Fielder started off this game against another familiar bull, the back-to-back world champion bull, Manhater. For the second time now, Brady had an answer for Manhater and rode him for a whopping 93.75 points. Elzamar Jeremias came out for the Freedom aboard Good Riddance and rode him for 90.25 points. Texas did challenge for a touch and lost, which put them in a must-ride situation. Florida managed to have a perfect weekend with a win against the Rattlers. Game 5, the Carolina Cowboys versus the Austin Gamblers. Austin's Lucas Davino made his ride aboard Woody look like a walk in the park, and he was awarded 88.75 points. Carolina's Ethan Winkler showed just how bogus he was when I Hate You reared in the chutes, only for Ethan to readjust and nod a few seconds later. Ethan went the full 8 and was scored 88.25 points. Andre Scoparo got another ride on the board for Austin when he rode Johnny Rocket for 85 points. Austin got another win in front of their home crowd to end the weekend. Let's do a quick rundown and highlight of the entire weekend. Florida was the only team to go undefeated this weekend. The Day 1 MVP was Brady Fielder, Day 2's MVP was Jess Lockwood, and Day 3 MVP was Brady Fielder. Our bull of the event, of course, was Manhater with a score of 45.5 points. Next weekend, we'll be in Missouri for Thunder Days, so make sure you stay tuned for that recap shortly after the event. Don't forget to please like and subscribe to our channel. Also, go ahead and hit that little bell to receive notifications every time a new video drops. It's not just about the 8 seconds, it's about the courage, commitment, and the grit. Until next time, this is Dirt and Glory.